Hey all, Pixel here from Purple Garage, and we're doing some art today. I'm building a robot. This is my bin o robot parts. This is my broken ass, I found it on the side of the road with flat tires hand truck. And between these, I want to build another junkbot for in front of our house. There's one there right now that holds up our mailbox that my partner built. So yeah, let's start digging into what I got. So I'm going to pull this welding bench out. I built this a while back with retractable wheels on it for exactly this purpose. All right, so like I said before, I want to build a junk bot. The basic idea that I want is a sort of retro 50s-ish kind of look made out of random scrap that I have. So let's dig into my bin of stuff and I'll show you some of the major pieces I'm going to be using for this. So there's a lot of stuff in here because anything that I thought might be useful for it down the line just got thrown in this bin in the back corner. So like those mobile parts, these are from the 59 Chevy, these are literally cooling lines from the van. This I was thinking might possibly be useful as hands, like cut these apart to be the fingers. So we'll put that on the bench. Smashed Prius oil pan. This was here because I thought about maybe making a bird bath. So this is one of the major pieces. When I bought the Foldsmobile, that terrible Parts-Mobile, there were a bunch of Starfire parts in it, inexplicably. This was one of them, and I thought that might make an amazing chest piece. And then these are like, I think 64-ish Chevy pieces. And there was a way, which one was it? These fit. Can't figure it out right now, but there was a way that this fit really. Ah, there it was. This fits pretty well there. I mean, it's going to need some adjusting, but as a shoulder, that looks really cool. So we're going to grab that and those. What else? There should be another one of these in here. I may not use it though, because this is actually a really nice old Craftsman. So that may not get used after all. There's another wrench. Random bracket sleeve. This is literally anything that I thought might be usable. So there's a lot of just randomness in here. Like this is part of the fuel system for the van. And then here, this I want to use for its head. This is a headlight off of something. I have no idea what, but it is in terrible condition. It is all bashed to hell to the point where it's actually cracked. And then I have a second one. This one's got the lens out of it. So that's probably going to be used for like the body of another one somewhere down the line. I thought I had multiples. Oh, there's another one. What is this one? Oh, this is another Craftsman. Wow, this is a really old. You know what? Let's not use the antique Craftsman ones until I've determined a little bit more about them. This is literally patent pending Craftsman, so God knows how old this thing is. So we're going to hold off on those. I was going to use those as maybe arms, but maybe I shouldn't use vintage pieces until I do a little more research. I'm not even concerned like they might be worth a bunch, so much as like if there's people who really like them and want them a lot, then maybe I should. Ah, yeah, here we go. This one's got no guts in it, so that one's a totally usable one. This one's adorable and it's an SK, but it's a style that I hate and nobody uses anymore, and seems to be jammed. So that I don't feel guilty about using. So yeah, let's start doing some assembly. So like I was showing, these kind of fit here, and will fit even better once I've trimmed some of that away. And that'll give me like a chest and a shoulder that I can then have the arm come out of. And then if this is my face, you can see the design I have for this, I wanted to have kind of the proportions of a kid rather than an adult. So like head kind of large relative to the body. This is going to give me this piece is going to give me a relatively wide chest and shoulders just because of what it is. but I think it'll still look right in proportion, and then I'm going to make it fairly compact and squat. I'm not entirely sure all of my design. I have some vague ideas, but I'm very much leaving this incredibly loose on purpose because it's more interesting to me to sort of figure it out along the way than absolutely hammer it down ahead of time. I got a bunch of scrap steel of various kinds that I can easily use for this project in addition to that frame. So yeah, this is going to be a lot of just kind of piecing stuff together and seeing how things come out. All right, so that's that bit. I wanted to get this assembled because so much of it's going to be based around that. I had to trim it away a little bit, a couple of screws to hold the side pieces on, and that's exactly the look I wanted from that. So now it needs spine, shoulders, that kind of stuff. I can run a bar straight from there to there. They're close? No, they're not. Okay, that one's centered on these. This one's forward a little bit. Some progress. So what I've done, got its main sort of spine for everything. Then the crossbar is going to be where the arms are going to get attached. And then down here, this is, yes, a brake pad. Yes, it was on fire. That's probably a stupid thing to use. And then this is part of one of the the upper control arms from the van. But this is going to give me hips. Not sure I quite like that, but it's a good start. Yes, it's all turned. That was intentional because one of the things when I've built little stuff like this is that the biggest thing that makes it look realistic is not being at right angles. If you build it with the shoulders and the hips perfectly, unless you're building a very formal looking thing, it looks wrong because people rarely stand perfectly straight. Especially if the rest of their body is doing something. And if their hands are reaching this way, their hips and their shoulders are unlikely to be in line. You know, people don't hold their hands straight on in front of them, that kind of thing. So it's going to build some of that into it by having the hips slightly cocked. Right now, this sort of lower spine piece that tied everything in goes too far down. So right now I just stuck it in where the hole where the bat used to be. So it needs legs and it needs arms, and I think I'm going to need to add some height to it, but I'm going to hold off on that because if I have to, I'll just slice it and add some height in later. So I want this thing to look like it's sitting on the ground in the way a kid would. Not so much its legs crossed, but like sort of one knee up and one leg out or something like that. Like I want to kind of like the way a kid would just flop on the ground. The next step is off of these. I got to build like one leg up and then one leg sort of, I don't know, maybe crossed underneath it or something. so I've got one leg built. It's a little more boring than I'd like, but at least I've got a structure there. I can always add and change things later. I needed something. So now I need to do the other leg here. The issue is this one I want cocked out this way because I want it to be... Where the heck is my other pipe? Pipe time! I want to kind of have them, you know, do this thing that kids will do. You know, you'll do like half a sitting cross-legged. But I need to get this kicked out that way for that to work. This is going to need a bunch of trimming off over here, though I'm not going to trim it right this moment. And I don't know what the best solution there is. What I'm thinking of doing is getting out the inductive heater, wrapping it around this right here, heating it up and seeing if I can just pull the whole thing that way, which might work, but I might also set that bushing on fire by the time I get that really thick pipe melted and moved. The other possibility is doing a similar thing with trying to bend this way. Not entirely sure. I think I'm going to try and leave the pipe intact. I might just cut away over here. I think that might actually make more sense than just keep the pipe out underneath. I'll just leave this top plate in place. What I'm going to have to do so one thing I did discover is this has two rubber bushings on either side. I discovered this when I sliced the bottom off so that its foot would sit flat. So I'm going to do that again on this one, slice the bottom off, and then drive the other bushing out from the other side. Kind of a pain, but is what it is. These are the connector. I might cut these pipes off and just put a piece of this as the back of the calf. That might work. Even if I do more, that might just give that some more structure. I'm definitely going to have to raise up the torso. The torso is way too low, so it's going to have to come up, I don't know, maybe 6 inches. But right now I'm just building it where it is. SD card was full, so I just finished working and then swapped it out. But here's where I am. Got the two legs mostly done. I cut out the knee and added these sockets just to make it not two things, you know, just two pipes that come together. These were parts of that thing that I added as a sort of calf muscle, just to have something more going on there. I'm really happy with how this is coming together. Got a lot of it done. Now that it's together, I'm going to actually put these nuts and plates back on here where they were, because I took those off so that I could get this bushing to rotate at least a little bit, so I could get stuff where I wanted it, and that did work. So yeah, I think I'm going to take a break though, because I am both exhausted and my skin hurts from getting little bits of metal embedded in it, because I didn't bother to wear a coat because I'm a dingbat. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this is coming out, and looking forward to coming back out here and doing some more with it. Hail, new day, same robot. So first thing I'm going to do today is chop his torso off and raise it up, because I basically think that the shoulder needs to be about as far above the knee as it currently is below it. So, I don't know, 6-8 inches? I don't know. I'm going to use another chunk of that. I'm going to look through my random chunks of metal over there and see if I get lucky and there's something I can sleeve that with to just make it a little stronger when I weld it back together again. Alright, so I found something, but I also messed up. This pipe fits perfectly over the old one, so it's sleeved over here. Sleeved over here, I cut out a notch in the front so it could drop down. But I made it perfectly straight and in line. I want the upper torso turned a little that way relative to the hips. And I think I was going to say, I think I want it tipped downwards slightly, but I don't think I do. I was going to think like a hunched shape, but I'm not as sure about that. I think maybe a little bit. But what I'm going to end up doing, even though this fits so effing perfectly, I hate it, is I'm going to cut this a little bit more so that I can rotate it a little more, even if it leaves a gap on the other side. And if I decide later I want the torso tipped down, what I can do is pie cut in the front, tip the whole thing, and weld that back up. But for now, I think if I rotate that a little, that'll get me what I want. All right, so that worked. That's got it in place. It's warm, but it's all nice and solid because that pipe is sleeved over the end. It's not just butted against it. Now, arms. All right, so now we got to work on the arms, and some plans have changed. So I went and looked this up. This is a 1930s, 1940s Craftsman. They go pretty much almost regardless of condition for 20 to 30 bucks on eBay. Always useful to look. Don't look up the auctions that are for sale. Those are what people want to sell it for. Look up the completed auctions. That's what they actually sold for. Because these are like, there's a bunch of them listed for 65, 100, blah, blah, blah. That's not what they're actually selling for. They're clearly not that valuable. They're clearly not that rare. But I was futzing with this and it works. Like, it's all rusty and gnarly, but you can select forward and back and it just works. So I think I'm going to clean this up, oil it, and put it in my cabinet, in my tools, because if it just works, then cool. Neat old Craftsman. Similarly, I don't know where it went, but the other Craftsman is also probably going to go in my drawer just to use, because it also seems to work just fine. They were actually, I was looking though, I was fiddling, and they're way too big, because this needs to be from the shoulder to the elbow. And when I sit, my shoulder, if I cock my arm out slightly, it's in line with my knee, more or less. This is way too long. This is about the right length, and this one's not worth a lot. This one's selling for about half of what that is in similar to better condition, even though it's an SK. So I could use that, but I don't have a match to it. So I did have this. There's another smaller one of these in here that maybe those will work. But I remembered I had a whole nother bin of stuff, and this is full of wrenches. Tons and tons of old, mediocre. These are all either nothing brands or really poor condition, or both. This was couple of years ago when my partner built her junkbot, or possibly even before. We were at the flea market, and she got this entire bin of stuff for like $10. It's all largely just cheap junk. Like I said, there's a few nice ones in, like nice brands in here, but it's all in terrible condition. So one of these is probably going to work perfectly, or one of these. A pair of these is probably going to work perfectly as forearms. I just got to dig around, find two that are the right length and the right shape to look good. And then that might work. If that doesn't work, I think that, yeah, see, this one's a little long. This one might be a little short. This one's a little long. This one's a little short, but those might work. I might just have to trim the end off. And these might be interesting because I can put a bolt here, clamp this onto it, and weld it onto the bolt. This has got some wood bits on it, but I'm pretty sure I can just weld to that end cap because I think that end cap is all the way through. Between all of this stuff, I'll find something that I like, I'm pretty sure. I also have, there's some there's all junk sockets. There's also bits of an erector set that's in here, including the motor. And then for the forearm, may have showed these before, I may not. These are the plans for the hands are going to be one of these flowered out. But I was looking at the fact that I have the pair of them, and I was thinking that those might work as a forearm, and I'll just cut away everything except the one thing. The only question is, I don't know what these frames are made out of. So if I can manage to find a way to weld this to this, then I can use this whole thing, just chop out all the bits I don't need, so it's just one beater. Maybe remove the handles, I don't know, but that's going to depend on what these frames are made of. They're probably junk metal, they're probably some sort of pot metal, and if they are, that means I can't use them and I'll just have to take them apart. But I'm going to try first, because if I can manage to keep these mechanisms, the wheels, that would be super cool. So I think I'm actually going to work on those forearms first. I think I'm going to find out where I am with those, because that may influence all the other stuff. Like find out if those are weldable or not. And then from there we'll sort of step back and work on the upper arm once I know what's going on with the forearm. I may even do something where it's 2 overlapping wrenches or something to give it a little more dynamic shape. But yeah, we're going to figure it out from there. And yes, the vintage craftsmans are going to live to ratchet another day. All right, yep, I was right. This is some unweldable junk metal. I don't know how well that's going to show up, but it doesn't fuse to it all. It's some sort of pot metal that just turned an interesting shade of blue, but it didn't actually weld to it. So I might, if I really decide I want to, I might do something with like running straps of metal over this, like capture this without physically welding to it, and maybe like hide something behind that's because this is steel or stainless or something. Maybe put something behind that's physically connected to that and just kind of holding this part in place, but it's actually welding this to whatever the end of the arm is. And I'm probably gonna have to chop off a bunch, like take the crank handle off, probably take this handle off, so that, see if I can get these down to about the same size. This one, I can already tell if that one's that, this one's the same thing, because it looks like the exact same low quality casting. So I'll probably do the same thing with this, which is chop away the second mixer and the framework, and then hide something that connects to the rest of the arm. So we're gonna pause on working on that directly. We're gonna pause on that to work on this. Alright, I'm really liking how this arm came out. I ended up with a doubled up wrench for this part. And then the crank handle was actually proper steel. So that got welded to the wrench to sort of lock that in. The wrench is notched so that it could tuck in there. And then that's kind of locked all of this stuff together for the most part. I cut away, as you saw, the whole other thing, the whole support. And there's a little tiny bar welded in here to keep this all hooked together because the central shaft of this is steel. These tines are stainless, but it turns out this sort of hub assembly is that same pot metal. So I cut these apart and then they were a little floppy, so I went to weld them to the hub, and a couple of them just popped right off because the pot metal burned away. So that's why there's a washer now welded in the center there, so they're all welded to each other and they're still being captured by that hub, so that should be fine. If I get nervous about it, I'll just take another piece of that thin bar and just go from the washer to the knee or to this bar, you know, something in there to just lock that all together. But that works pretty good. The final finger shape I'm going to mess with later. I also have to grind down the tips of these just to make them a little cleaner and a little less nasty. Same with, like, I want that to be a little less sharp. I want some kid who comes near it to not immediately just get eviscerated by random corners. But I'm really happy with that. There's a plate with a nut, or there's a washer with a nut in here, and then this is a carriage bolt that's threaded into that just as tight as I could by hand. Right now this is not welded up here because I wanted to be able to remove it. So right now all I have to do is cut that tiny little bar and unscrew this, and I can take the arm off if I decide I don't like it or I want to move it or whatever, because I haven't finalized the other side of him. But I really like that. That's got what I want. I wanted him to basically be resting his forearm on his knee as he sits there. So now I basically have to duplicate that same idea for the other arm using the other egg beater. I really like how those fingers came out. This is one of the things that was bugging me about this project, was how do I give him fingies? Like, how do I do a hand that I like? Because a lot of, and I'm not saying this to diss on anyone else, but the thing I see a lot is people do it with, like, nuts and bolts. Just a lot of bolts making all the phalanges of the fingers, and that works. You can 100% get a hand shape that way. It just wasn't what I wanted for this. I actually wanted more sleekness. The bottom half ended up a little gnarlier than my original image was, but I couldn't find any pieces that really gave me my original image there, so I'm doing this, and I may add more to it, but I wanted to get this built. I've been sitting on this project for too long. But I liked the sort of hand but different that the whisk gave me, so I'm really glad that I was able to get that to work. It's possible I may trim one of them down to be a thumb, but I think right now I like the idea of them all. I think I need to go in and bend them all at the same place. I think that'll make this look better, is if the second, you know, they all come out and then the second bend is at the same place, because right now it's all a little different. So like if this one came out more flat and then bent more there, you know, that lines up better with that one. And then this one could do, anyway, that idea, like I can get them to bend a little bit better. I think that'll work. That'll look a little nicer. So I'm gonna figure out a good way to turn them around, and then we're gonna do the same basic idea. I have this 19 mil is close enough to the 11/16 that I used, but I don't have a good exact match for that. I have some other stuff, but it's not quite the same. That was a very long and very thin one that I probably shouldn't have used because I don't have something else to duplicate it. I don't think the box over here. No, these are all on the smaller side. Oh, hey, that might work. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that'll be close enough on the other side. I'm gonna have to get a little inventive because the bolts won't fit through that little end, but that'll work. All right. Do the other hand, I guess. All right, this arm is now together. How much stuff is away? I don't know how people work clean. I never have managed it. So in the same similar idea as this, we've got the gear. We've got a double wrench sort of set up to make the arm more interesting. In this case, I ended up, the reason I had the inductive heater out is just to get this one to line up in the hole of the other one. It just needed to be heated over here and just very slightly tweaked in, just so that they would line up, because they didn't quite before. I kind of had to get complicated to lock the beater in, because this piece down the center is what that goes through there and into the body here, and then that was held by that whole cage assembly. So it needed that in there, and I'm going to trim it down when I do the final thingies. But then to lock the beater in, some of that, the strap for that was wrapped around it, welded to the little tab that it was cut off of, and just sort of bent around. Like, this is going to all need to be cleaned up a little bit in here. And then this is another piece that was shoved through, welded to the wrench, and then bent around and welded to the wrench again, so that this is all, the beater is now locked in there. Like, this is what's actually keeping this in place. Like I said, once I get this all where I want to, this is all going to get welded together here, so you can't pull that out. Once I decide on my final arm placement, the bolt over here is going to get welded in. The reason I'm using carriage bolts, even though I can't tighten them down properly, is that when I'm done, it'll mostly be that sort of smoothness. There won't be a bolt head there, and I kind of like that. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more here, as well as obviously I got to put the head on. But I'm really happy with how that all came out. I like the added complexity from using the beaters. I like the double wrench setup to sort of imply a linkage of some sort and make it more complicated than just a single wrench there. I think if I'd been using the ratchet ones, I would have been fine with just that, because there's a big complicated like shoulder piece that then goes down. But using the simpler wrenches, I think this works more effectively. So for the head, I have, there's basically, looks like it's this looks like a carriage bolt in here, and I think there's supposed to be something going on here. I'm not quite sure what's going on, because this washer looks like it should move to be able to have something in there to lock this down. But there's definitely that's definitely steel in there. So what I can definitely do, and it should be pretty simple, is get the head where I want it, turned the way I want it and tipped the way I want it, and then I should be able to just weld this washer to the neck. I'm going to flatten the neck out. This is dished because it's supposed to be the piece that was going to meet up to that. No. Yeah, it was going to be the piece that was going to meet up down here, and then it ended up, I basically did the wrong end of it, and then this all got changed anyway. But I need to cut that flat, and then I should be able to just shove this down in here, weld this to that, and then weld the bolt to the housing, then that should lock the head in super easy. The last big step that I don't think I have an answer for today is something should be here. He needs a back of some sort. The easy solution is I've got a bunch of steel and aluminum and whatnot, and I can just bend a piece down. I can just, you know, cut it the right width, bend a flange on the end, cut it so it fits around this, and I could literally probably either screw or bolt it to this, and then just take the whole thing down and then attach it, you know, put a bracket. And that would be very simple. That would just give me that round back and just seal up his chest cavity. I'm leaving the sides here open for now. I can't think of anything to really fill that with that will look right, though I do have, I say that and then immediately second guess myself because I do have a lot of bike gears. So maybe, see, I only have big bike gears, unfortunately. It'd be really lovely if I had a cassette or two in here to grab bits off of, but I don't. But maybe, yeah, see, this is, if that was in there, that'd be way too big because that's, oh, but maybe I can give them some sort of like mechanism that sticks. Ooh, that's interesting. So what if I cut this so that it can slot past, but it's going to stick up out of his chest, out of his back. Maybe do two of them, so that it's ringed around his body here, but sticking out. Run the bike chain over that, run the bike chain in, and then maybe fake another mechanism in here, get some bolts or something, you know, like put a bar there or something with the chain goes down to. Ooh, I kind of like that. Whole bunch going on back here. And I can still do that plate in between if I want to close it up more. This is what I love about designing on the fly. I love kind of coming up with stuff. I also love working with junk for the same reason, because you have to come up with an idea with the things in front of you. You know, it's easy to go to the store and buy a pre-made thing. It's much, much harder to figure it out from the crap you've got lying around. I do like that. We're going to work on that in a bit. Let's get this arm finished. And I can finally show you that there's a thing I have been telling you about. There's been a core idea behind this. The layout and everything I've been designing on the fly, but there's been a core thing I wanted to have happen. We're about to get to that. So I'm going to do that and then talk about it once I get there, and then we'll finish him up after I've gotten that going. So yeah, I'm going to lock down this arm, I'm going to lock down the head, I'm going to get this crap off the table. Not in that order. Yeah. Yeah, I'm real proud of that. So, this little robot, he's been here the whole time. I don't know if you noticed him on the bench during the project, but this was the last piece I was looking for to be able to work on this project. Because this was the image I had in my head. It was my little guy here, sitting on the ground, contemplating a toy robot. I'm not usually this deep, but somehow this idea popped into my head a very long time ago. And I've been collecting the pieces because I had a very specific look in mind for it. And I'm real proud of how that came out. I'm real happy I finally got it done. I'm really happy with how it came out. We're not done. I'm still putting more detail into them, but like, that was the image I had in my head. Robot sitting there, looking at a little tin toy robot. This was surprisingly hard to get a hold of. Yeah. I really like that. I really like how that came out. I like how, once the head was on, God, that looks so expressive. That's exactly what I wanted. This is surprisingly hot. I put a lot of heat into the lens is cool, but man, I put a lot of heat into the back of this, welding it. There is a massive amount of weld in here to get this to all lock down the way I want it. Because this is one of the things that needs to be the strongest. That and this arm, and right now this arm's a little floppy. You gotta do something about that, but yeah. I'm gonna lock this arm down. I'm gonna get some more between this metal bit and these, because right now it's only connected around the bottom. So if somebody whacked on this, intentionally or otherwise, it would probably just shatter something in there. So I got to get something that connects up the top. The gear did catch fire in there, the plastic gear, when I was welding all that together. But yeah, that's really good. All right, let's finish this thing up. All right, I think I might be done back here. You saw me, I tried filling in this side and I was going to do the same on this side, but I didn't like it as much with this filled in. I think maybe like that. I also have these. Can I? No. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it like that. I think I prefer the openness to anything I can think of to put right there. I did ponder, I wanted to give him like a jetpack or something, but I don't have anything that's the right shape. That was another thing I was looking for at the flea market, but I can't think of anything I have that would work for that. That wouldn't just be like a 2 pieces of pipe or something. No? A bunch of junk I've got lying around. That was actually nice. This is one of the really trashed up ones. Just occurred to me, I do have these radio flyer wheels that I could... Ooh. That's too much, but I do like. If I cut that till it. I think what I might be able to do is cut the tire off of this. Cut the hub in half. I may have a hub. I have to look. And put the two, like, have the 2 halves of the hub sit on that bar. Should have a hub because if you remember from me fixing the wagon, one of mine, the tire cracked completely off of. So, clever me, I have already thrown that out. Oh, but this one's split. See that? See how that's split? All right, I think we can call it done. Back pieces didn't go the way I originally planned, but I like how it came out. These are the two halves of that gear. It turned out the only one I had. And then I had this aluminum mesh. You saw I started putting it there and there. Didn't really like it. And then cut that radio flyer tire and hub in half. Put that in. I like how that fills out the space. And then I just added a little strap to... These are aluminum, so they can't be welded to everything else. So that little strap is just holding them together. And now everything's locked together nice and tight. So at this point, it's done. That's exactly what I wanted. Let me clean off the thing so you can actually see it properly. All right, and there we go. I actually went and like sanded some of the sharp points and touched up one or two welds that were a little sketchy, but that is now done. I am super jazzed how that piece came out. That was exactly what I was hoping for from it. And I love that this little guy is the only part of this that was bought new. Half of it was just flat out scrounged or found. Like all of his bottom that came from that hand truck, that was all scrounged metal. This was van parts. That was, I believe, van parts. His chest piece in these came in the Foldsmobile. And then a lot of other flea market finds. This was a swap meet find. Yeah. Really happy with that. Really proud of how that came out. He's going to go in the flower beds somewhere in around our house. I don't know exactly where yet. The reason he still has that bit of metal sticking down, that means he has to kind of balance awkwardly, is I haven't decided how he's going to be placed. I might weld a really long bar to him to sort of drive it into the ground, secure him in place. I've got an old spring over there that I may weld basically to his butt and then twist him in the ground. What I just don't want is somebody to be able to just walk over, pick him up, and wander off with him. I've had art pieces stolen before, so I'm a little paranoid about that. But yeah, I'm really happy with how that came out. So I think I'm done for tonight. If you wait till afterwards, when it's light outside, I'll set him out in the yard and film a little bit out there. And here's my little guy. Just somewhat cleaner shot without all the clutter in the background. Of course, the grass is much higher than it should be. But yeah. I am really, really happy with this piece. As I commented, some friends of mine, it's kind of rewired my brain a little bit. Even though I make art from time to time, I've never really been comfortable calling myself an artist, but really this piece has been in my head for quite a while, and I was finally able to build it, and it came out exactly the way I wanted. Like, it's got the exact feel that I wanted from it. So it's really kind of rewired my brain and made me feel a lot more comfortable actually calling myself an artist. So neat. Anyway, that's going to be it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll talk to you later.